The briefcase started leaking before the detectives opened it. Not water, not chemicals. Something darker, something thick enough to make the young constable outside the townhouse turn away and vomit into the gutter while rain hammered the streets of Newcastle. I still remember the exact sound that zipper made. Slow, sticky, wrong. 3 nights earlier, my son-in-law Callum had stood in my kitchen laughing like nothing in the world could touch him. He'd kissed my daughter Mia on the forehead, pinched chips off my plate, and complained about the bloody Pacific motorway traffic all the way from Sydney. Just another Friday night dinner in Merewether. At least that's what I thought. Callum worked corporate security for a mining firm in Parramatta. Quiet bloke, expensive watches, always smelled faintly of cedar cologne and airport lounges. Mia adored him, said he made her feel safe after her ugly breakup years earlier. But there was always something rehearsed about him. Like every smile had already been practiced in a mirror. That Friday night, he arrived late carrying a black leather briefcase I'd never seen before. He kept it beside him through dinner instead of leaving it near the door with his coat. I noticed because I notice everything. Old policing habit, retired 8 years, and I still watched hands more than faces. "You guarding state secrets there?" I joked. Callum smiled without showing teeth. "Work's gone mad lately." He changed the subject instantly. Maya didn't notice. She was too busy talking about the cafe she wanted to open near the foreshore. Watching her laugh reminded me so much of her mother, it physically hurt sometimes. Claire had been dead 6 years, cancer, slow and cruel. Since then, Mia was all I had left. Around 10 that night, Callum got a phone call. The moment he saw the screen, his whole body tightened. He stepped outside to take it. I watched him through the kitchen window while rain streaked the glass. He paced beside the back fence, speaking in low, aggressive bursts. "No, you listen to me." Pause. I said I handled it. Longer pause, then the sentence that lodged in my brain like a splinter. "She doesn't know anything." When he came back inside, he looked pale. "You right?" I asked. "Yeah. Work rubbish." But his eyes flicked instantly toward the briefcase. An hour later, Mia and Callum left. She hugged me goodbye while he loaded their bags into the Audi parked outside. 10 minutes after they drove off, I found the briefcase sitting beside the kitchen island. Forgotten. I called Mia immediately. Straight to voicemail. Called Callum. Off, I figured they'd realize eventually. I carried the briefcase into the study and left it beside the desk. That should be the end of it. Instead, at 1:13 in the morning, somebody started banging on my front door hard enough to shake the walls. I opened it to find Callum standing there drenched from the storm, breathing heavily like it sprinted the entire street. "Where is it?" No hello. No explanation. The briefcase? Yes. Something primal tightened in my chest. "You drove 40 minutes back here for paperwork?" "Just give it to me, Graham." His voice cracked slightly. That frightened me more than shouting would have. I told him to calm down while I grabbed my keys. But when I turned toward the study, I noticed something strange. The hallway light was already on. I was certain I'd switched it off earlier. I stopped walking. Callum stopped too. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then we both heard it, a soft scraping noise coming from inside my study. Callum's face drained completely white. "There's someone in your house," I whispered. But he didn't look scared. He looked devastated. Before I could react, he shoved past me and sprinted down the hallway. I followed, hearing drawers slamming open ahead of us. When we reached the study, the window overlooking the backyard was wide open, rain blowing across the carpet. The briefcase was gone. Callum stood frozen beside the desk, staring at the empty space where it had been. Then I saw the blood, fresh drops leading from the study window toward the fence outside. Not much, just enough to chill me to the bone. I grabbed the fireplace poker near the lounge while Callum stumbled into the backyard barefoot in the rain. "Callum!" He ignored me. He kept following the blood trail through the wet grass until he reached the side gate. Swinging slowly. And that's when headlights flooded the driveway. 2 police cars. A detective stepped out into the rain, already reaching for his weapon. "Mr. Bennett," he shouted at me, "step away from your son-in-law immediately." Callum didn't move. The detective's expression hardened. "Callum Reed," he said loudly, "you are under arrest for the suspected murder of Elise Whitmore." Mia had never mentioned an Elise Whitmore before, but judging by the terror in Callum's eyes, she should have. Callum didn't resist arrest. That disturbed me more than if he'd tried to run. He just stood there in the rain beside the open gate while detectives handcuffed him under the flashing blue lights. Water dripped from his hair into his eyes, but he never blinked, never argued, never asked for a solicitor. He kept staring at me. Not angry, not desperate, guilty. Detective Senior Sergeant Nina Carver pulled me aside near the garage while uniformed officers searched the backyard with torches. "You live alone, Mr. Bennett?" "Yeah." "You touched the briefcase?" "No." That was technically true. I'd carried it but never opened it. Carver studied my face carefully. Mid-40s maybe. Sharp features. Sydney accent softened by years in Newcastle. "What exactly did your son-in-law say when he returned tonight?" "He wanted the briefcase back." "Did he explain why?" "No." She glanced toward Callum, sitting in the back of the police car. "You're retired police?" "Yeah, 23 years." "Then you already know this isn't random." I looked toward the blood trail disappearing into darkness beyond the fence. "What was inside the briefcase?" Carver hesitated. "We're still determining that." That answer alone told me it was bad, very bad. An officer approached holding a small evidence bag. Inside was a silver necklace, tangled with wet strands of blonde hair, found near the fence line. He said quietly. Carver's jaw tightened. "Jesus." I felt cold all over. "Who's Elise Whitmore?" Neither officer answered immediately. Finally Carver spoke. 26-year-old journalist from Sydney. "Went missing 4 days ago." Journalist. My stomach dropped. I'd seen her face somewhere. Then it clicked, the news. A reporter investigating corruption tied to mining contracts across New South Wales. I suddenly remembered Callum's company phone call at dinner. "She doesn't know anything." Christ. Carver asked me to come to the station for a formal statement. By the time we arrived, dawn was bleeding weak grey light over Newcastle Harbour. Mia was already there. The second she saw Callum being escorted through the corridor in handcuffs, she lost it completely. What the hell is happening? Nobody answered fast enough. She turned to me instead. "Dad, I'd spent years delivering terrible news to families. Nothing prepares you for doing it to your own daughter. They think Callum's involved in a missing persons case." "Involved how?" Silence. Then Carver said it bluntly. "Murder." Mia laughed, actually laughed. "That's ridiculous." But nobody joined in. The room seemed to shrink around her as reality slowly reached her face. Her eyes moved from the detectives to Callum behind the glass interview room. "Callum," she whispered, "tell them." He finally looked at her and said nothing. That silence shattered her harder than any confession could. Hoarse passed in blurred fragments. Detectives questioned me repeatedly about the briefcase, the phone call, Callum's behavior. By midday, every news station in the state had picked up the story. Missing journalist, corporate corruption, arrested security executive. Former cop connected through family. The vultures circled fast. Outside the station, reporters crowded barriers, screaming questions as officers moved evidence boxes through side entrances. Then came the part that truly sickened me. Callum's fingerprints weren't the only ones found on the briefcase. Mine were too. By afternoon, internal affairs officers were reviewing my old police records. Standard procedure, they claimed. But I recognized suspicion when I saw it. Retired detective unknowingly protects murderous son-in-law. It looked ugly. Maya refused to speak to me after learning I'd hidden the briefcase overnight. instead of calling police immediately. I didn't know what was inside. You knew something was wrong. She was right deep down. I had known. That evening, after 10 brutal hours at the station, I finally returned home. Rain still fell steadily over Merewether. My house felt violated somehow. Every room carried fingerprints, muddy footprints, traces of strangers. I poured whiskey with shaking hands and sat alone in the dark. That's when I noticed the study door. Slightly open. I was certain I'd closed it before leaving. Slowly I stood. Every instinct from my policing years returned at once. I moved silently toward the study and pushed the door wider. The room looked untouched. Until I saw my desk, one drawer partially open. Inside sat a single object that absolutely had not been there before. A mobile phone. Old burner model. Water damaged. Beside it was a folded note, 3 words written in black marker. Lead 2. My pulse hammered violently. Then the burner phone vibrated in the drawer. Incoming call. No number attached. I stared at it for 3 full rings before finally answering. At first, I heard only breathing. Then a woman spoke quietly. You need to stop trusting your daughter. The line went dead instantly, and somewhere upstairs inside my house, floorboards creaked. The footsteps upstairs stopped the second. I looked toward the ceiling. Climbed silence. Every muscle in my body locked tight as I reached slowly for the kitchen knife, still sitting beside the whiskey glass. My heart hammered so loudly it drowned out the rain against the windows. Who's there? I shouted. Nothing. I moved toward the staircase carefully, gripping the knife harder than I wanted to admit. Retired or not, fear changes the way a house feels. Places you've lived in for years suddenly become unfamiliar. Every shadow looks occupied. Another creak. Back bedroom. I climbed slowly. The hallway upstairs sat in darkness except for weak streetlight bleeding through the curtains. My bedroom door was open. Spare room closed, but Claire's old art room at the end of the hall stood slightly ajar. That room hadn't been touched since she died. I pushed the door wider. Nobody inside, just dust sheets. Old canvases, the smell of stale paint and grief. Then I heard movement behind me. I spun instantly, knife raised. Mia. She froze halfway down the hallway stairs, eyes red from crying. What the hell are you doing? I lowered the knife shakily. You nearly gave me a bloody heart attack. I've been calling you for 20 minutes. I looked downstairs. My mobile still sat beside the whiskey glass. Mia noticed my face immediately. What happened? I didn't answer straight away. Instead, I showed her the burner phone and the note. She read the words twice. He. Lead 2. What does that mean? I don't know. You think Callum wrote it? No. That answer came too quickly, because deep down, I already sensed something worse. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, exhausted beyond tears now. Her mascara had smeared under her eyes, making her look younger somehow. Fragile, I don't understand any of this, she whispered. Callum isn't violent. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Mia. He cries during bloody animal rescue ads, Dad. I almost responded automatically. Almost defended her from reality like I used to when she was little. But then I remembered Callum's face in the rain. Not innocent, terrified. There's more going on than the police are saying, I admitted quietly. She looked up sharply. What do you mean? I handed her the burner phone. There was a woman on this. She said not to trust you. Her expression changed instantly. Only for a second, but I saw it, fear. Real fear. Who was it? She asked. I don't know. You recognize the voice? No. Mia stood abruptly and walked toward the window. Her breathing became uneven. You think I'm involved? I didn't say that. But you're thinking it. Silence answered for me. She turned slowly. I loved him, Dad. Past tense. Loved, not love. That caught my attention immediately. Before I could respond, headlights flashed through the front windows downstairs. A car pulled into the driveway too fast. We both looked down. Dark SUV, unmarked. 2 men stepped out. Neither looked like police. One stayed near the vehicle, scanning the street, while the taller man approached the front door, wearing a charcoal coat, despite the rain. Then came 3 hard knocks. Not polite, controlled. Professional. Mia went pale. "Do you know them?" I asked. "No." But she answered too quickly. The knocking came again. I headed downstairs, while Mia remained frozen at the top of the staircase. Through the frosted glass beside the door, I could make out the silhouette of the tall man standing perfectly still. I opened the door halfway. "Can I help you?" The man smiled politely, though his eyes stayed cold. "Evening. Looking for Callum Reed. He's in police custody, yes, we know." Australian accent. Sydney eastern suburbs maybe. Educated. Behind him, the second man remained beside the SUV with one hand inside his coat pocket. "Who are you?" I asked. "Friends of his." "No offense, mate, but you don't look like friends." The smile faded slightly. "We believe Callum may have left something important here." My blood chilled. "The briefcase is with police." "That's unfortunate." Something shifted upstairs behind me. Floorboard creak. The tall man's eyes lifted instantly toward the sound. "Mia's here too?" he asked softly. Every instinct I had screamed danger. I started closing the door. "We're done here." But before it shut completely, he spoke again. "You should ask your daughter what Elise Whitmore found inside apartment 47 at Rhodes." Everything inside me stopped, because Mia suddenly gasped behind me. Not confusion, recognition. The tall man nodded slightly after hearing it. Then he walked calmly back toward the SUV. Before getting inside, he looked at me one final time. "Your son-in-law wasn't the one who panicked when the journalist disappeared," he said quietly. "He was the one trying to protect her." The SUV drove off into the rain. I turned slowly toward Mia. She looked absolutely horrified. And for the first time since her mother died, my daughter looked like a stranger to me. "Mia," I said carefully, "what happened at apartment 47? She backed away from me instantly. "Dad, it's not what you think." People only say that when it's exactly what you think. Rain battered the windows while silence stretched between us like a snapped wire. I could see her mind racing, calculating how much I knew, how much the police knew, and whether lying still had any value. "I swear to God," I said quietly, "if you know something about that journalist, I didn't kill anyone." The words exploded out of her. Too fast, too defensive. I stared at her. "I never said you did." Her face crumpled immediately. That told me enough. She sank onto the couch, shaking, both hands covering her mouth. For a moment she looked 10 years old again, sitting beside Claire's hospital bed, pretending not to cry. "I was trying to fix it," she whispered. "What exactly?" She looked up slowly. "The mining company Callum worked for. They weren't just paying politicians." I sat opposite her, heart pounding hard now. They were laundering money through fake property developments around Sydney. Apartments that barely existed on paper. Millions disappearing overseas. Elise Whitmore found out. Mia nodded weakly. "She contacted me first." That stunned me. "Why you?" "Because I used to do freelance accounting work for Callum's company." Every piece started shifting violently into place. "How involved were you?" I didn't know what it really was at first. But later, tears rolled down her face. I saw payments that didn't make sense. Offshore accounts, shell companies. Callum wanted to go to police months ago, but people inside the company started threatening us. And Elise? She was already investigating them. She found apartment 47 in Rhodes. It was being used to store files, cash, fake passports, everything. I felt sick. The tall man's words replayed in my head. Callum wasn't the one who panicked. He was protecting you, I realized. Maya nodded once. Elise contacted me 3 nights ago. She wanted proof before publishing anything. Callum went to meet her. The night she disappeared. Yes. I stood and walked toward the kitchen, trying to breathe through the anger boiling inside me. You lied to police. I was scared. You let your husband take a murder charge. I thought they'd kill us. That sentence hit harder than anything else. Not metaphorically, literally. The people behind this weren't corporate fraudsters anymore. This was organized crime wearing expensive suits. I looked at the burner phone still sitting on the table. "The woman who called me," I said slowly. "Was it Elise?" Mia hesitated, then nodded. Cold spread through my chest. "She's alive?" "I think so, think." "Not no." "Mia, where is she?" Before she could answer, tires screeched violently outside the house. We both froze. Another vehicle, not the SUV from earlier. This time it was police. 4 cars, doors slammed. Detective Carver marched toward the front entrance with armed officers behind her. Mia panicked instantly. "No, no, no. What?" she called them. "Who?" "Elise." My confusion lasted only seconds before the front door burst open. Police, armed officers flooded the house. Carver spotted Mia immediately. "Step away from the table, now." Mia raised trembling hands. "What's going on?" I shouted. Carver looked furious. "We traced the burner phone. To Elise?" "No." She stared directly at my daughter. "To a storage unit rented under Mia Reed's name." Everything stopped. "Mia?" I whispered. Her face emptied completely. Carver spoke carefully now. "We searched the unit 30 minutes ago." Nobody moved. Then Carver delivered the sentence that shattered whatever remained of my old life. "We found Elise Whitmore's body." Mia broke instantly. Not shock, not confusion, pure devastation. "She wasn't supposed to be there," she whispered. My knees nearly gave out beneath me. Carver stepped closer. "Mia Reed, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and obstruction of justice." "No," I said immediately. "You've got this wrong." But even as I spoke, I remembered every hesitation, every lie, every terrified glance tonight. Maya looked at me with tears streaming uncontrollably. "Dad, I didn't know they'd kill her." Those words hollowed me out from the inside. Officers moved to cuff her, but suddenly she jerked backward violently. "Wait!" Everyone froze. "There's something else," she cried. Carver narrowed her eyes. "What?" Mia looked directly at me. "They're going to release Callum tomorrow morning." "That's impossible." "He made a deal." A sick feeling crawled up my spine. "What kind of deal?" Mia's voice cracked completely. "The kind where he gives them another body instead." Silence. Then my phone rang in my pocket. Nuno number. I answered slowly. A man's voice spoke calmly. "Mr. Bennett," he said, "your son-in-law has agreed to trade you for immunity." My blood turned to ice. The voice continued. "He says you know where the missing ledger is." Then the caller laughed softly. "And if he's wrong, they'll bury your daughter beside the journalist." By sunrise, I understood something horrifying. Callum had never been trying to save himself. He'd been trying to save Mia from me, finding out who she really was. The police moved her into protective custody before dawn. Carver wanted answers about the ledger, the money trail, the people funding the operation. But the moment they left my house, the threats escalated. 2 marked police cars tailed us through Newcastle. A third vanished near Hexham. No radio response after that. Carver's face hardened immediately. "They're moving already." "Who?" "The people above your son-in-law." I sat in the back beside Mia while rain drifted across the highway in silver sheets. She looked destroyed, not criminal, not evil, just broken by fear and terrible decisions. Finally, she spoke. "The ledger isn't paper." Carver glanced back. "What?" "It's encrypted data. Elise copied everything onto a drive before they grabbed her." "Where is it?" Mia looked at me, and I suddenly remembered the briefcase, not the missing contents. The lining column had kept touching the inside seam during dinner, like he was checking. Something was still there. "He hid it," I whispered. "Where?" Carver demanded. Then it hit me fully. Claire's art room. The one room nobody touched. The one place Mia would never search because the grief hurt too much. I looked at Carver. "Turn the car around." 20 minutes later, we reached my house to find the front door hanging open. Police tape ripped loose. One officer unconscious in the driveway. The others gone. Carver drew her weapon instantly. Stay behind me. Inside, the house looked ransacked. Furniture overturned. Drawers emptied. Somebody had searched everything, but they'd missed one thing. Claire's old oil painting, near the art room window, hung crooked. I walked straight toward it. Years ago, I'd hidden emergency cash behind that frame during an undercover operation. Only Claire knew, and apparently, Callum had known too. I pulled the painting down. Behind it sat a taped waterproof pouch. Maya burst into tears the second she saw it. Carver opened the pouch carefully. USB drive. Alongside, it was a handwritten note from Callum. For Graham. If you're reading this, it means they reached Mia before I could get her out. None of this started with her. It started with me. I should gone to police sooner. But once Elise disappeared, they made it clear Mia would die next. The people funding the laundering operation include politicians, police, and executives. Nobody clean survives this. I made a deal tonight. They release Mia. I take responsibility for Elise. But if they broke the deal and came after your family anyway, give Carver the drive and don't come looking for me. I already know how this ends. Mia collapsed onto the floor sobbing. Even Carver looked shaken. Then we heard applause behind us, slow mocking. We turned instantly. The tall man from the SUV stood in the hallway holding a silenced pistol. Two others appeared behind him. You should left it alone, he said calmly. Carver raised her weapon. So this is where the brave detective speech happens? The gunman smiled faintly. No, this is where witnesses disappear. Gunshots exploded. Carver fired first, hitting one man in the throat. The hallway erupted into chaos. I dragged Mia behind the overturned dining table as bullets tore through plaster. The tall man moved frighteningly calmly through the smoke and debris. Professional, military maybe. One of his men grabbed the drive from Carver during the struggle and sprinted for the front door. Then another shot cracked through the house. The runner dropped instantly. Everyone froze. A figure stood outside in the rain, holding a revolver column, bleeding heavily from the stomach. The tall man stared at him in disbelief. You stupid bastard. Callum fired again. The tall man went down hard beside the doorway. Everything after that blurred into sirens, screaming, shattered glass, and rain pouring through broken windows. By the time backup arrived, 2 men were dead. Carver survived. The drive survived, but Callum didn't. I sat beside him on the wet driveway while paramedics worked desperately around us. Blood soaked through his shirt faster than they could stop it. Mia knelt opposite me, completely shattered. Callum looked at her first. I'm sorry. She couldn't even speak. Then he looked at me. You were right about me, he whispered weakly. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. I wasn't right enough. He gave the faintest smile at that. Minutes later he was gone. 6 months passed before the arrests finally hit the news. Politicians, executives, detectives, an entire network exposed by a dead journalist who refused to let go of the truth. Maya moved interstate after the trials ended. We still talk sometimes, though neither of us knows how to repair what survived. As for me, I still wake some nights hearing that zipper opening in the rain. Because the thing that truly chilled my blood wasn't what the coppers found inside the briefcase. It was realizing the only innocent man in the whole nightmare was the one they arrested first.